Thanks so much for asking me to be here today. I'm Lisa Lord. I'm the Conservation Programs Director with the Longleaf Alliance. So I do a little bit of everything. I manage some of our wildlife programs, and then I also work on some of our carbon and water programs. And I've heard so much about your LIT over the years, so I'm just excited to be here and to talk to you. And I'm hoping this spring that I can actually get to Texas and meet some of you in person. So I've got just about maybe a 10-minute slide presentation here, and then I'd love to open it up to everybody for discussion. So I'm going to talk a little bit about a new project that we have with NIFWF that connects longleaf pine restoration and conservation to water benefits. So I've been working in the Savannah River Basin, and if you're not familiar with the Savannah River, it basically flows on the border of Georgia and South Carolina, all the way down to the eastern seaboard. But I've been working in that basin since 2017 on a program or a water fund that's focused on connecting healthy forested watersheds and the water quality of the river. And a good bit of that watershed contains the Solo Waste LIT. So they've been a really valuable partner in this effort. And then we've been building partnerships with the drinking water utilities, and most recently industry. International Paper has become a really important industry partner for us. And the utilities and IP have funded several of our land protection projects. So through this partnership, we've been able to uncover new funding, connect landowners to new resources to continue to keep their forests as forests. And so that project has been kind of a pilot project for us at the Longleaf Alliance. It really kind of helped us understand how to better connect our longleaf conservation work with some of the co-benefits of longleaf restoration. And so now we're kind of interested in expanding that work across the range and supporting the work that our partners are doing. So just a little bit of quick background, and most of you are forestry folks, so I don't really need to go too much into this, but forested watersheds provide about 2/3 of the fresh water in the United States. And healthy forests provide all of these different benefits that most of you are familiar with, regulating stream flows and temperature, groundwater recharge, natural filtration, and then supporting the quality and the quantity of surface drinking water. And it also provides co-benefits like wildlife habitat, carbon sequestration, and source water, and is important to our water supply. And source water just really refers to sources of water. So that's rivers, streams, lakes, reservoirs, that kind of thing that provide water to our public drinking water supplies. So this new project focuses on these co-benefits of water for both aquatic ecosystems and water supply. And so for drinking water utilities, and where their interest is essentially that it generates cleaner water that reaches their drinking water treatment plants. And so that helps keep water affordable for their customers. And there are some things that, quite frankly, we can't treat, like pharmaceuticals, out of the water. So it's important just to have it be clean when it comes into the source. And so it lowers our treatment costs, and then it also enables utilities to avoid building or upgrading their infrastructure. And so source water protection is an important co-benefit. And so America's Longleaf Restoration Initiative did this fact sheet, which I'm happy to share the link with all of you in the chat. And then we also worked with EPA to create this map. The darker areas have a higher density of areas that are covered by source water protection areas, and then the lighter areas have lower density. So I think this is kind of an initial mapping effort that's sort of range wide that really helped us kind of start to think about how we get a handle on how longleaf might be a solution and contribute to source water protection. And then well-managed longleaf pine forests can offer some specific benefits to watersheds. They're drought tolerant, which can potentially help reduce water demand. And Stephen Brantley at the Jones Center has done quite a bit of work on that. There's certain management practices associated with longleaf pine, like lowering basal area that could help increase water supply. In certain areas, Florida particularly, reduced tree density can enhance aquifer recharge. And then Alex Chow at Clemson University has also done some really neat work around prescribed fire and water quality. And frequently bird forests are on average less acidic, have lower dissolved nutrients and organic carbon. And so that ultimately leads to requiring less water treatment as well. So why is source water protection something that we should focus our longleaf restoration and conservation efforts on? Well, it's good for everybody. So it supports public health, local economies and businesses. And you all obviously have been talking a lot about corporations and local economies, supports outdoor recreation, increases climate resiliency. Importantly, it opens up new funding opportunities, again, which you're finding through this new corporate effort and partners for longleaf restoration. Those, especially the utilities that I've been working with, haven't thought about longleaf restoration really at all. They're thinking about built solutions and chemicals. They're not really thinking as much about green infrastructure. It's just not something they're familiar with. And so we can provide that kind of expertise to them. And I think source water protection is an important part of the longleaf story. And I think it's important to kind of communicate all of those benefits of longleaf restoration and provide like that full picture of the importance of longleaf ecosystems. And I found that drinking water may resonate with individuals or businesses in a way that sometimes other benefits like wildlife habitat, which we all love, but for those people in the community that are focused on economic concerns, if we can show that connection, that's where it really becomes, longleaf restoration becomes important to them. So what are the opportunities in the longleaf range? There's about 10.8 million acres of source water protection areas. So those areas that have been identified by the EPA as important to protecting source water in LIT boundaries alone. So that doesn't include everything that's range wide, so there's quite a bit of opportunity here, but these are the areas that are most critical to source water protection. This is actually just a photo here of a property that we recently protected in South Carolina. So that waterway there is one of our local utilities' drinking water canal, and the property behind it is a 1,000-acre tract that we protected on the river that protects their drinking water intake. And so they helped to contribute to the purchase of this property. And we were able to get this project done because the utilities, drinking water utilities, and with a little bit of funding from the National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, were able to provide the private match that matched some of the federal sources that made this project go forward. So I'll talk a little bit about the actual grant itself. So the project goals are to focus on both water quality and water quantity. So the importance of those things kind of vary as you move across the range, and I'm still learning as I go into these different areas what the issues are. But the Southeastern Partnership for Forests and Water, if you're familiar with that organization, developed these state and watershed-based forest and water collaboratives in 10 Southeastern states, including Texas. And Hughes, I know that you've been an active part of that. And they focused on priorities around water and the state forest action plans and the forest service regional priorities. So they have been focused on these forest and water collaboratives. And so the idea behind this grant is to help bring together some of these water collaboratives, some of the LIT partners, and bring them together and include corporations and industry and others that are interested in this. So the goal of this grant is essentially to leverage all of these different collaboratives. We're working on the same things essentially, but we're not, I guess, working together as much as we could be to leverage some of our efforts, and then also build a greater understanding of the benefit of longleaf forests to water resources through actual on-the-ground projects. So we're going to be developing a prioritization map by pulling in some of the mapping efforts that have already been done and doing it in areas where it hasn't been done, so we can highlight areas where restoration could potentially benefit water supply. And Ryan Bollinger, who many of you know, is going to be helping on our staff with that effort. And then we'll also be implementing some demonstration projects in priority watersheds, which yours has been identified as one of those, to do projects on the ground where Longleaf is connected to water resources that could be benefited. So we've got a little bit of money for longleaf pine restoration, so some establishment cost share, some prescribed fire cost share, best management practice cost share. So if there's landowners that need to replace culverts, have erosion issues, need to put in water bars, things like that. We've got a little bit of cost share for that. And then also some cost share for due diligence. So I don't know if any of you are land trust staff or have worked with conservation easements, but one of the biggest barriers for landowners is the expense associated with doing a conservation easement. Appraisals can be many thousands of dollars, and so can the title work can be expensive, hiring an attorney. So I have a little bit of cost share available to help defray some of those costs that landowners might incur when doing a conservation easement. And some of that money could potentially match money that drinking water utilities or corporations put in. So that's something that's available, and I'd love to work with you all to find some projects that maybe meet that criteria. The other objective or goal of this grant is really just to increase collaboration. And so I'd love to hold a Longleaf and Source Water, some sort of forum to strengthen the partnership, bring together your LIT, the Forest and Water Collaborative, some of the corporations, some of those partners that you've been developing, the drinking water utilities, and pull everybody together for a forum and discussion about how we can all collaborate more effectively, explore water fund development. We've been able with utility funds to really move the needle when it comes to land protection and some other things. And then also, I'd like to follow up with that with an actual field day or something in the field on a property where we can kind of demonstrate to all of the different partners that are involved in this forum some of the projects on the ground. Some of the utilities haven't been on the ground to actually see some of these projects, and one of the challenges they have is actually connecting with landowners. So with that, I will kind of end my presentation part here.